Yeah, continuing coverage of Saluki basketball this season, introducing new staff members to the Dogs and also just our staff members behind the scenes for Saluki basketball. We've caught up with Riley Hoystad. Now the true strength and backbone to really improve the Riley Hoystad positioning with the Dogs. And his first year with the Saluki basketball program is none other than Coach Showtime. Brandon, good to have you, man. How's year one in Carbondale going after it was probably a little bit of fast forward for you when you got here in the summer?
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm excited. I didn't get the whole summer, but we got a good portion of it, and that's all I can ask for. Yeah, I'm excited. This is my first job where I think basketball is the flagship of the athletic department. A lot of places I've been at, obviously football kind of carries the torch, but
Yeah.
I'm excited about this and, just being a place where you can just tell people really care about it. So,
For your pathway, tell Saluki Nation a bit about how Brandon Schoeneck's journey throughout his coaching tenure and his way, different stops you've had, kind of give the career path to this point for you so far, Brandon.
Well, I'll try to be concise. There's definitely a long version of the story, but I'll try to give you the short one. And maybe I'll go work backwards might be the way to do it, actually. So the last 2 years I was at Rice University doing men's basketball there. That was a great step for me. The American Conference, it's a fun conference, a lot of good teams, great athletes, good coaches. Our staff got let go, nature of the biz. And when this job came open, when Colton left, I had a mutual contact with Coach Nagy. I worked for another backstory. I worked for Coach Gates at Cleveland State. And so we obviously went up against Coach Nagy when I was there. A lot, yep. And so when my resume came across Coach Nagy's desk, he reached right out to me, and then he, followed up with Coach Gates. And, me and Coach Gates still talk. So, that was kind of a done deal. I think it's for the best. I think we'll fit together. I think we'll work together pretty well. He seems to be what I like to look for in a head coach. A guy that demands toughness, a guy that wants to play really hard defense. I'm all about it. So
Colton, of course, was very beloved and did a great job here previously and got the summer started. But again, it's one of those areas too. I'm sure it helps Coach Show, and from the standpoint of everyone is relatively new to the program, and when Colton wished him well going on to East Carolina, has it made it a little bit easier to implement kind of your style and get to know the guys, knowing that pretty much everybody outside of three guys are brand new to Carbondale as well?
Yeah, and I can tell Colton did a great job with the guys that are returning. With only 3 of them, I've got a chance to have a blank slate with 10 scholarship athletes plus the walk-on. So it's, starting anew. And I kind of wish, college basketball is now, that transfer portal age. You kind of have to plan. Fade. I got you this year. We're going to maximize your time. Hopefully, I get more with you. You used to just get the kid as a freshman and say, hey, I want to have this long-term, process. But we've got to make changes and adaptations right away. So, I think if I could give advice to a lot of kids, is try to be in a place for longer, and especially if you like the strength coach, you're going to develop your body a little bit better that way, and your game, because you're going to be working with the coaches, the same thing, that changing all the time. It's just a different system. It can be a different lifting system as well, in the weight room, and a different way of doing things with a different strength coach. So,
what have you found the best ways in your time throughout your career, the best avenue to connect with the guys? What do you find are your best traits in building that trust, building that relationship to where you can get them to maximize what they can do?
I think my background wasn't initially in basketball. And I know we didn't finish that question about my background, but I didn't start out in this business saying, hey, I want to be a basketball strength coach. I just wanted to be a strength coach. That was the goal. Once I kind of got a taste of it, I loved it, and so now this is my 10th year of college basketball. The way I would put it, though, to really get buy-in and really connect, the fact that I have that background with a lot of different athletes, a lot of different backgrounds, it helps with basketball, because now you have international kids, you have kids from all different walks of life, and so just being that chameleon, I guess, is the best way of saying it. Way back in the day, if we went back further on that question about my background, I did some high school football, and so in high school football, or football in general, you've got to be kind of a chameleon. Each room is a little bit different. The wide receiver room has a different culture than the QB room, right? The offensive line room has a way different feel than the secondary. So, you have to kind of connect with guys and get on their level. And I think I do a pretty good job reading the room as well, and not just being the square peg in a round hole. This is the way to do it. I can blend and draw upon all my different styles of training. I'm not super rigid, and I think that allows guys to have a little bit of autonomy. I mean, it's not a total democracy, but there's certain. I'll provide the structure, but you tell me what we're doing a little bit. There's a little bit of give and take, especially the grind of a basketball season. I've got to keep guys fresh, and so training them always one way. It maybe leads to a little bit of overuse, or kind of fatigue that way. So just keeping things fresh and letting them have a little bit of say, and I'll just provide the structure and how we're going to implement the stimulus. So
it's always a really fun question for me to ask, whether it's our players or coaches, of what ultimately led you to choosing the position that you're in today. So for you, Coach Showtime, what led you ultimately to being in this position and what you enjoy so much about it?
Well, I guess we got to go back further into that question of my background. Like I said, I didn't have necessarily the basketball background. Now, I grew up, basketball was my first love, but I was naturally, a better baseball athlete, so that was kind of my background. And, when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. At the time, I was just a year-round baseball player. Now I'm no longer playing. I was a good student, but I chose a bunch of different areas of study and until I finally landed upon, the exercise science field. And so once I graduated that and did a master's degree in that, and I was already working as my own personal trainer in the private sector for a while. I like I said, I'm an unusual case for strength and conditioning coaches. I was 27 when I first decided, hey, I want to give Division I athletics a crack. I did an unpaid internship. There's not too many 27-year-old unpaid interns in strength and conditioning. They're usually undergrads or maybe fresh out of undergrad being a GA. I had already had a grad school degree or master's degree. I had already been kind of doing it with high school athletes and stuff. So, again, I just wanted to be a strength coach. The grind of being the personal trainer, you're always, hustling just to barely make ends meet, especially at the time I came out of college. It was right in the recession after the '08, crash.
Yeah.
So from then to about 2013, 2014, it's like I said, it was just a hustle, and it was just like, it just felt like you're always just, trying to just do more, and you can't. There's only so much time in a day. So, I decided, hey, let's try Division I athletics. I don't have to be a salesman anymore, and you actually, I found out you really kind of do because of the recruiting,
Yeah.
But, thinking going into just being a strength coach, let me just give me the people I need to work with, and I'll manage that, and I can be, a good team member, right? Well, when you start as the intern that I did, I was at Cal State Fullerton. I worked with every sport. I was there from sun up to sundown. I didn't have to take classes like most interns because I was already had a master's degree. I had nothing else on my plate. I was just an unpaid intern. Now I worked a job at night to make money, but
Yeah.
that was like my first taste. And so I worked with the basketball team there a little bit, and then I went to Wisconsin and interned there, and that was just in the Olympic sports weight room. So again, non-basketball, non-football, everything else pretty much. But I was almost going to give the whole profession up after that internship. There was not a lot of stuff coming my way. Obviously, I had very few contacts and not much of a built-up network. But I knew some people from when I went to University of Arizona, and my mentor at Cal State Fullerton at the time, he knew the director there, and the director there, knew somebody getting a job at Louisiana Tech, and they needed an assistant, part-time paid assistant. So I jumped at the opportunity, and this opportunity was my first real foray into basketball. So I worked at Louisiana Tech men's and women's basketball as an assistant, with the director. He was in charge, but I helped him out at every one of those lifts. And then I had 3 or 4 sports to train, that was the head of. So it was tennis, golf, volleyball, stuff like that. But and that was still a grind. I'm helping out with 5, 6 different teams. And if our director was on the road with men's basketball, I would, train the women while he's gone. So that little taste of basketball was fun. I loved it. And so, I got an opportunity at Jacksonville State. They had a new head coach, Ray Harper, coming in, and he wanted to hire a strength coach. And again, just to kind of show you the grind it is, my job there when I first took over, I was the Dobo and the strength coach our first year. So, that's a lot on your plate. Now, I did a good enough job. Like I said, once you give me a chance, I'll prove myself that they, gave me a new title my second year at Jacksonville State, and they gave me the women's team. So I was a director of strength and conditioning, and I did men's and women's basketball there for the next 4 years. So I did 5 years at Jacksonville State working for Ray Harper on the men's side, and then Rick Petrie on the women's side. Great experience. It really allowed me, to sink my teeth in and find my own style. And I think that's kind of, for any guy starting out in strength and conditioning, that's what you need is, you need to be authentic and you need to be you. You can't come in and try to be somebody else 2.0 that you work for. Now, you can take influence from them, but I think once you find your style, your voice, your methods, that's the way to go. So, but that, like I said, that was a great experience. Jacksonville State, I'm still proud of the 5 years I had there. At that point, they had really no Division I success ever. We went to the NCAA tournament my first year. I still haven't been back. I want to go so bad. Yeah. And then, we followed that up with, 2 years of setting the school record for wins. For our first 3 years, we essentially set the school record for wins. We had Belmont and Murray in the league at the time, and they were the big dogs. John Morant was at Murray, the Dylan Windler, the Evan Brads at Belmont, the Nick Muzinskis. Great Belmont teams. Rick Bird was the coach, but we swept them. We're not supposed to be what we were doing. We weren't supposed to do, and we went in there and we showed the world, hey, we're here. We had a great run there. I had the opportunity from there to go to Cleveland State, and that's kind of where I left off on that question. From Rice to Cleveland State. Before that, Jacksonville State and Louisiana Tech. So
synergy is so important within a staff.
Yes,
Brandon, and not even just so much your connectivity with Coach Nagy and the assistants, but you brought up how you were also once a Dobo, and of course Justin Inslee, a huge part of the program. Riley from the athletic training side. How important are you three in terms of really the daily setup of how everything goes within the program, and how essential it is that all three of you are really on the same page at all times?
That's the name of the game as support staff. We have to have our stuff, lined up and together, so that way, we're not caught off guard with anything. And, even still, there's always going to be some surprises, but you just try to, you want the coaches to be able to just coach and not have to worry about anything else. That's the ideal, situation. I mean, you're going to work for some coaches that maybe, manage a lot more than they need to, and that's fine. There's different management styles. But like Coach Nagy, I mean, if he doesn't have to hear about that, I mean, we can just handle everything on our own, and that's great. So, I've worked for a lot of coaches like that. It's and I want to have, the autonomy to do what I want to do, and me and Riley to handle what we need to handle. And, if there's something that needs to be brought to a coach's attention, I get that. But ideally, we've made things so smooth that we can just focus on winning. That's the name of the game. So
looking towards the team, Brandon, it's one of those areas where all the data points you have are just really from the summer, but there's a ton of growth that could be made from just the summertime to now. But one of the guys I do want to pinpoint with you is Kennard Davis. Kennard has been a guy from when he first came in last year as a freshman. You've totally seen his body and just his work ethic. You've seen that transformation. He's now physically ready, excited. What have you seen really from Kennard this summer to build off of what was a good freshman year? But it seems like he's really had the right mentality with you attacking the weight room here this offseason.
Yeah, you can right away you can tell he's got the motor, he's got the work capacity. So he goes hard, and he does everything outside of here to keep his body right, and then do an extra to make sure he has built up his tank to withstand the season. He's a big physical specimen at this point. I like the way he's improved since the summer, and I think he's going to be a big part for us. So, but like I said, it's building that tank, that work capacity. And he's got the motor. So,
and there are Also challenges you have to work with, whether it's guys like Rilo, who had to miss significant time in the summer, now working him back in. Jorge missed a lot of time. I know, really cutting down on his weight, which he has, and done a really masterful job. What have you been impressed from guys like that who had a challenging summer, just in terms of maybe having to wait on some things, to also getting their body to the point where they can be out there regularly? What have you seen from those guys that have really bought into having to really have challenging times with just the way the summer went for them?
Yeah, and Jorge getting there late. The thing that impressed me, day one he came up to me and said, whatever I need to do extra, I'm here to do. So the early going and even early this fall, you just trying to build him up just so he can handle a full practice, and that's goal number one. Because if your tank is empty after a practice, forget doing extra, Now, we still got to find a way, and sometimes you just change the intensity of the extra stuff you're going to do. And so I just try to match, like for like. So if it's like today, he came in and did a little extra, but it's nothing that's going to, fatigue him for tomorrow. Just because today we didn't have practice, and you want to kind of recovery day needs to be recovery day. You can still drive some aerobic, capacity there. So, but if it's a day like, a couple of days ago, we had really tough practice day. It was hard. So in the weight room, we went hard. Make the high days high, make the low days low. I mean, that's kind of the in vogue, concept right now, running through, from the NBA to college is, applying the stimulus or the stress the same as practice. So that way you have your high days high, your low days low. So,
and it helps with Jorge that he's at least had that college experience. For someone like Rilo, obviously Jaheim coming in as a freshman, that's a huge adjustment too. What have you found from your experiences of helping freshmen make that adjustment and to come in the summer and right away being thrust into a situation where at times they probably feel like, man, I can't breathe in terms of like trying to catch up to the speed of how everything goes.
And that's a big adjustment, is the speed of the game. But, the adjustment to the workload is also another. High school, the stress of a practice or a game, it ain't like college. So you're going up against grown men now. But the biggest thing I usually try to instill in our freshmen to get them to understand, even if they only play for, work for me for a few years and then they transfer or, whatever it may be, they need to understand that from October to March is the longest, well, actually from September to March is the longest continuous, time they have to get better, and the consistency is what matters. The off season is great, the summer is great, but we get 8 weeks and then there's another break. Right, most of the month of April and May. Again, I think this is kind of the downside of the kind of the transfer portal era of the spring. There's just not enough continuity. Your season ends in March. What real training did you do in April and May? Are you just going to rely on 8 weeks in the summer to be it? And that's we're going to go hard for those 8 weeks, but if you don't maximize the September to March, right, that's your biggest chance. Because then you have a chance to be in front of a coach every day working on skill, outside of what's required in practice, and then you have a chance to get in the weight room even on days we don't have anything scheduled. You got a chance to be in the weight room, working on your work capacity, working on your strength, working on your mobility, whatever it may be, whatever the recipe is for you. So,
you mentioned early on, really the first program now you've been able to be a part of where basketball, is such a lifeblood within this community, Brandon. What has you just most, I guess, maybe anticipating or eager to get this year going, to just go down the hall here in Banterra, to see those crowds, to feel that enthusiasm? What are you most excited about just in that, to just be a part of Saluki basketball this year in the first year under Coach Nagy?
I think going back to my year, I went to the NCAA tournament with Jacksonville State. The crowds we had those next few years, especially like when we played a big game against Belmont or Murray, I mean, there was electric, full sellout crowds, and that was unheard of at Jacksonville State. Here, we have some success. People buy in quick, is what I understand. So to me, that atmosphere is just amazing, and that's what I want to be a part of. Obviously we want to win. I'm competitive, but those nights you were a part of a big game or a big close game, those you just never forget. Those memories, they're amazing. So,
and Saluki fans, remember, if this year is just all the success that comes for Southern, it's all because of Brandon Schoeneck.
I don't
right?
know about that. I don't know about that. You know, honestly, too, you know, being here with Southern Illinois, I've always been a big college basketball fan. I can remember, you know, I started watching the NCAA tournament in the 90s, right? I was 10 years old watching. I'm from Arizona, and U of A University of Arizona won the tournament in 97. They beat 3 1 seeds. I mean, that's a Cinderella story, you know. I can remember, I think my first NCAA tournament memory, you know, Princeton ran a backdoor play to beat UCLA in 96, and you know, back then all the games were just on CBS, and you were just at their mercy of whatever game they're going to show you. You know, and I'm like 9 years old, so I'm able to stay up. My mom's letting me stay up on the West Coast, you know, watch these games. And you know, that's right around spring break as a kid. It's the best. It's the best.
Brandon, thanks so much for the time. It's been great to get to know you here since the summer, and looking forward to the season, man. It is here.
Yeah, can't wait.
Once again, that was Brandon Schoeneck, Coach Showtime for Saluki basketball. We got plenty more coverage coming up for the Salukis as we get closer to the season. It is right around the corner. For all the latest on Saluki basketball, stay right here with us with Saluki Athletics.